Greg Chips. I'll be moderating our little discussion today, and I don't want to spend any more time until we first introduce our VIPs that are joining us. Laura, why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
My name is Laurier. I was born and raised in Stratford, Ontario. I am in my first year at Laurier. I'm a transfer student from Fanshawe College, and I actually work full-time in the athletics department at Laurier on the Waterloo campus. So I'm taking this program part-time, but I am a student as well as working.
Very cool. Golden Hawk on 2 different levels. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Greg, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, hi, I'm Gregory Joris. I'm a first-year student at Laurier, Brantford campus. I'm in the Sussex Law program, but my major right now is Humanities with Leadership Foundations. So one thing about Laurier that's really struck me so far is the community aspect, and that's something when we go in person that I really want to get connected with.
So from the 2 people that you might meet in class if you become a Golden Hawk in the next couple of years, to one of the people that you're almost certain to meet in the program. Dr. Farrugia, why don't you say hello?
Hello, I'm Peter Farrugia. I'm in the history program, and I also coordinate the Humanities with Leadership Foundations program. And fun fact, I've been at Laurier Brantford since it opened in 1999 with 2 full-time faculty and 39 full-time students. So it's grown quite a bit since then.
As the kids would say, Peter Farrugia is an OG. Peter, I want to ask you, since you're clearly the expert on the program, what do you think is the most important part of the first year experience in leadership with Humanities and Foundations?
So I think a couple of things. I think the first year intro to humanities seminar is really important because we take a particular approach to teaching in that course, inquiry-based learning, and it is different and it takes a little bit of getting used to, I think. But once students get comfortable with it, I think they really find it invigorating and challenging and refreshing. I also think that the first year leadership course, Leadership Foundations, OL 140, is a really interesting course because it introduces students to a variety of leadership styles and individuals who held leadership positions.
Nice. So Greg, you are living the first year experience in real time. What is your thoughts on the most important part of your first year experience so far?
Well, like what Sir said, like the inquiry-based learning in the program is amazing. Like he said, when we first started, it was very new to me, and I had to sort of adapt to it. But once I got a handle on it, I started to learn a lot of stuff that I wasn't aware I was capable of in past years in high school, and I was able to basically become more independent, but at the same time learn how to communicate in a group environment in school, which I think is going to be very important in following years to come, or even when I leave post-secondary education.
Absolutely, especially with law as your career aspiration, no doubt.
Yeah.
Laura, how about you?
I think one of the most important things is the leadership classes for sure. I think they're very interesting, and you learn that there's a lot more to leadership than you think. So taking that in your first year is really helpful. But also the intro to the humanities class is you kind of get a better understanding of what humanities really is, and figuring that out in your first year kind of sets you up to feel better moving forward. So for me, you kind of understand what humanities means, but in this first year, getting a better grasp on everything that it encompasses so that you can kind of see that taking this program, there is a lot of options, because the word humanities and kind of like what is included in that overarching title, there's a lot. So that for me has been really eye-opening and reassuring that I'm in the right program. So learning that in my first year has been really important for me.
Nice. So Laura, you're in a unique position, as you said before, because not only are you a student, but you're also a full-time Golden Hawk in a completely other capacity. So I know a question that a lot of students are thinking about when they're making decisions on programs is like, in addition to what's important in first year, what's the workload like? Or like the work? And we've talked to, I think, Peter and Greg about some specific courses. How have you found managing the workload? Do you have some tips and tricks? Like, how's that worked for you?
I've always kind of had the mindset of like you do what you have to do. I'm also a coach on the women's basketball team at Laurier, so I have a lot on my plate. So you just have to make time for it. It's totally doable if you manage your time and make sure you're doing your readings and going to class. And if you want to learn and you want to be here, you can make it work. It's interesting, the things you're learning about and reading about. So while yeah, it's work, it doesn't really feel like it because you're learning through it. So it's manageable. Like I work full time, I coach, and I'm doing school, and I still have time to do my hobbies and do other things. So it's I personally think it's very manageable if you manage your time properly.
And Greg, the balance for you is different than what you thought you were signing up for when you applied, because obviously you've been doing this exclusively online, like everybody at Laurier the past 12 months. What's been your experience?
Well, exactly what Laura said, like you had to have the motivation to want to learn and to want to get things done. For me, I found the workload to be totally balanceable, and it's mostly about knowing what's ahead, and because there's a structure to it, like that you see in these classes. So marking it down on a calendar, and it's it's all about actually like participating and wanting to move forward with it. Because if you're not motivated with anything, even if it's super easy, you're not going to want to do the work. But with these classes, there's always, because it's the humanities, there's a multitude of things that we learn about, and it's virtually impossible to not find something in those classes that you find interesting or you want to interact with. So because of that, I've found it really easy to like pinpoint, oh, this is something very interesting, maybe for my essay, or maybe for this discussion, I want to talk about this, and I move on with that. And I pinpoint something like that in my exams too. It's like if I find something in these exams, like, I didn't know that before, and I'll search it up, and I'll actually dive deeper into it, and that just increases my understanding of the information. So in general, I've actually found it. I found like I found my niche with this program. So I feel like it's all about motivation, like Laura said, and the workload is fine as long as you want it to be.
Sounds like it works really well for curious minds.
Yes.
You've been doing this for like decades. Universal in terms of like first year workload, and maybe is there anything unique about this program that you're finding for first year students compared to some of the other programs? Because I know you've taught across a number of different disciplines.
Yeah, I think with the way that we're teaching the first year seminar, there are fewer of the kind of large assignments. There aren't massive essays. There's not a midterm, but students are required to kind of do research, get ready for class, after every class. So there's kind of a steady drumbeat of continual investigation and looking more deeply into things. And I think that helps kind of spread it out a little bit over the term. There are some deliverables. We have specific things that each unit necessitates. So they might have to write a blog or a report or do a PowerPoint presentation. But generally, it doesn't have the kind of massive ups and downs of a regular course just because we don't have essays and exams.
Nice. So, Peter, you helped put the program together. What would you say are some of the big opportunities after the first year? I know that that's the first year that's immediately ahead of us is the focus of this conversation, but obviously it's a small part of the bigger picture, the whole degree. So,
Sure.
what would you say is some of the big ones for you in terms of your favorite opportunities available for students once they're a senior student in the program?
Right. Well, I mean, we're a new program, so things are developing all the time. Someone like Greg, who's in the Sussex Law stream, can look forward to, after second year, spending 3 years in Brighton, studying in the United Kingdom in Britain. So that's an exciting opportunity, just being immersed in another culture, for example. As far as courses go, I mean, there are more leadership courses. Our students do 3 credits, so the full minor in leadership. They also do the foundation courses, which really are excellent for introducing the humanities and social sciences, as well as kind of the basics of things like essay writing, citation, that kind of thing. And then I want to hint or also underline extracurriculars as well. Like, we're trying to build different things into the program. One thing that we've just got some funding for is starting in the fall next year, the fall term, we're going to be doing something, a competition where we have students talking about a piece of art or literature that has meant something to them and why it's important to them, and doing kind of competition that way. We're also looking at something called Telling Tales, which is a kind of like stories from the stage, where people get up and just give a story, tell a story that has meant something to them, a funny story or a meaningful story, just kind of building that sense of cohort with our students.
Fantastic. So Greg and Laura, you're both first-year students in the program, so you don't have direct experience, but maybe things you're looking forward to in terms of what lies ahead in the program for you. Greg, we'll start over with you on this
one. For what lies ahead, of course, is just be in person and in classes, but on a more grander scale, it's just building up into something new that I haven't experienced before. Like Peter said, I'm going to be going over to Sussex. That's going to be a totally new experience for me, and I'm going to gain all kinds of independence from that, and that's what I'm looking forward to the most. And I think that's just what university is in general. It's just learning to not have to be guided through something so much, to the point where you can actually do something on your own and learn from it and then adapt. And I feel like that's university. It's being able to adapt, to be independent, and the longer you go through it, the greater your experience in that process gets. So for next year, I'm looking forward to just, like, as a person, just to increase my idea of what it is just to be a person in society, and I guess.
For sure.
It's kind of hard to follow up, but I'm just excited to get on the Brantford campus and kind of learn about the community there and get a bit more involved. I'm fairly involved through like work and coaching on Waterloo campus, so personally, I'm just looking forward to getting to Brantford and seeing everything there, since first year's been so virtual, and just seeing where this program takes me. I mean, I said it at the start, humanities is pretty broad. And learning that it's pretty broad was reassuring to me, that I can kind of figure it out as I go where I want to go with this. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
So in a lot of ways, Laura, you're directly involved with one of the most high profile and time intensive extracurriculars that exist at Laurier as it relates to athletics. I'm curious your thoughts on where the leadership component of this program fits for you. Obviously, as a coach, obvious connection, but how would you see it as playing into students that are part of these? Because by virtue of being a member of the team, they're obviously flexing leadership muscle as well.
So for me, that's what kind of drew me to this program the most, was the leadership aspect of it. I will admit, not that I thought I knew everything about leadership, but I was kind of like, I was a varsity athlete, like I'm a coach, I've been in those leadership positions. So I was like, oh, I know leadership. And like, you're reminded that there's so much to it and there's so much to learn. And it's, if you're coming from a sport background, there's more to just being a leader than sports, whether it's in your workplace, in your community. And you also learn about followership and how important that is and what that means, and how you can be a leader as a follower for other people. So I think leadership, you can be a leadership anywhere. It's not just up to managers and people higher up in your workplace to be the leaders. We need leaders everywhere. And one of my professors in OL 109 right now, he says in almost every lecture that we need better followers. And you learn how to be that in these classes as well. So it's not just, leadership isn't just for athletes or for people involved in sport. Leadership is for everyone in your community, in your workplace, in your friends, social circles. Like, it's pretty incredible how in-depth and how much there is to learn about leadership. And I love it. So I think anyone interested in being involved in anything, like on a high level should definitely take the leadership classes.
Definitely. I know for me, my first year experience, residence was the thing that got me in. I got involved in my residence council, and definitely was the start of my career without even knowing that's what was happening. And the thing I love, or one of my favorite leadership quotes, is that leadership is influence, and everyone has influence. Therefore, everyone's a leader. So I think that's something. And so the idea of that, like being in a program that would have tied that into everything I was learning outside of the classroom, pretty cool opportunity.
Definitely.
Wrap up with this one. Favorite memory of your first year? Laura, we'll have you start this one out. And then Peter, maybe we'll go bigger picture, like your favorite memory as it relates to working with first year students, whether it's in this program or maybe broader scope. So Laura, take it away.
I think one of my favorite memories is in BF, I think it was BF 190 I took first semester.
And which course is that again? Do you know the name of it?
It's one of the Brantford Foundation ones. It's the modernity one.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I was a transfer from Fanshawe, so I was always like a college student, and so when I was writing my papers that first semester, and I was getting, this might sound bad, but I was getting good grades. I was like, oh, I can do university. Like I can do this. Like there's always that kind of that stigma of like coming from college to university and the differences. So I think that I was able to like prove to myself that I can do this. And I've never felt so passionate about writing academically as I did about, I wrote my final paper in that foundation class about comparing feminism and Donald Trump and how white women voted and like all of that stuff into a paper. And I've never felt passionate about something like that as I did writing that paper. And that was kind of eye-opening to me that there's more to me than like caring about sports and leadership. So that was really like reaffirming to me that like being at university is a good decision for me and that I can do well at it. So that was really something powerful for me.
Love that. Super relevant. Greg, what do you think?
Mine was actually in my favorite memory at Laurier so far was actually in a breakout room in Peter's class. It was we were discussing a project. It was a group project together, and it was because of the nature of the medium of Zoom, things get a little bit like stale sometimes because there's just that barrier. But I remember one of my classmates just unmuted and said, "So how's everyone's day going? Like how's university?" And then that just turned on a switch and we all started talking to each other and we started laughing, talking about like memories and like making jokes about the situation and then like how we had to make this transition together. And like that really that was a really big icebreaker for me into like actually the community itself and like figuring out, yeah, like Laurier, it's a great place for community. And like I know that's one of the biggest things they strive on. So just being like actually having that conversation with my fellow classmates, I felt was really, it opened academically. I knew I was sealed into it, but that also opened up the door for me into the actual people behind the community as well. So that was my favorite memory so far.
And I'm sure you're looking forward to experiencing that community like in real time, in real life on campus like Laura. Because you're right, definitely the thing that we're most proud of. And I think we're able to still do it online, although admittedly, it's been more challenging. I'm sure Peter could speak for hours on that topic. Peter, we're going to give you the last word on this one because you are the OG.
I guess, I just feel really privileged to be able to work with young people like Laura and Greg. And I mean, just hearing their answers to that last question, makes me appreciate them even more. And I know that sounds kind of Pollyanna-ish, but I mean, it's true. I mean, a big part of what we love about this campus is we have those opportunities to build a sense of community. In the first year social justice course, I used to do a reenactment of the May 1968 student protests in France. And it was really interesting. We would have a town hall meeting, and they would come in character as either workers or political leaders or student radicals. And it was just a really effective way of them actually feeling what it must have been like to have been in a tumultuous situation like that. So, you know, just using different methods like inquiry-based learning or reenactments or community projects. I mean, we have that freedom here at Brantford. We've been given that latitude, and it really helps us to build a sense of community. And I think that that's something that, you know, some campuses have that, but not all campuses have that. And so we're very lucky to have that opportunity. And I really appreciate that freedom that I have to do different things, to experiment like the mad scientist a little bit.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for taking the time to speak with potential future Golden Hawks.